This parable of the talents told by Jesus has a lot of instruction for us, but it also has a little bit of confusion because of the word talent. In this setting, the word talent refers to an amount of money. It was 71 pounds of silver or gold. And so we know that 1 talent is actually a lot of money, and 5 talents is a lot of money. And if we understand that, then that helps us to put this all into context. And we might ask, well, why do you use the word talent there? It's because our word talent in English comes from this gospel. So we got the word from this gospel. And we know that when we say someone is very talented, it means that they have a large supply of ability. And so how do we understand this gospel? Well, let's just take talents to mean God's gifts that he gives to us and that he wants us to make a return upon. So what are some things that we can learn from this? First of all, that God's gifts are distributed unevenly. We are all equal in dignity before God, but we don't have the same amount of gifts. And this is very easy to see on the natural level. We see it all the time. Some people are very gifted, other people are not very gifted. I tend to find myself on this side. And we think that on the spiritual level, it must be different. Maybe we all receive the same gifts on the spiritual level, but no, it's the same. There are some people who receive immense spiritual gifts, like St. Francis, who had an immense amount of love, or St. Teresa of Avila, who was gifted with prayer, or St. Paul, who was inflamed by a lot of love. And so if we think to ourselves, well, maybe I can be like St. Paul, or maybe I can be a St. Francis, the answer, unfortunately, is probably not. We have about as much of a chance of becoming a St. Paul or a St. Francis as we do of becoming a writer as good as Shakespeare. It's just not going to happen because we don't have the same amount of gifts. But the one thing we also learn from this gospel is that we all have some. No one is without any gifts. And so we can't make that excuse. We can't say, well, I don't have anything to offer. The second thing that we can learn from this is that we are free to use them as we like. Even though they are God's gifts to us and they don't really belong to us, we are free to use them, to make of them what we can, or to make of them what we like, or to make absolutely nothing of them, and to bury them in the ground so that they rust and decay. It's all up to us. The third thing that we can learn from this is that they are given to us in seed form. They are not fully developed gifts. It is up to us to develop them. And there's nothing more sad than seeing someone with an immense amount of gifts, whether they're natural or spiritual, that squander them and don't make use of them. We all have seen this. It's sad. And there's nothing more exciting than watching someone with an immense amount of gifts make the best use of them. On the natural level, becoming very talented, or on the spiritual level, becoming saints, becoming who God created them to be. The fourth thing that we can learn from this is that when we go to make an accounting before the Lord, it will be all based on what we have received. So we won't be compared to others. We won't have our lives compared to our neighbors' lives, because we have all received different amounts of gifts from him. And then, therefore, we have to make a different amount of goodness out of it. And we see also in the gospel that the man who received 2 talents and the man who received 5 have the same reward, even though the man with 5 was more gifted. And so we can take confidence in the fact that it's all up to us to come before the Lord with the gifts that he has given to us. And so if we were to summarize this gospel, we would say it is do what you can with what you have and make good on the gifts that God has given to you for your own good, for the good of others, and to glorify God. And if we all did this, what a world we would have if we took responsibility for all that God has given to us and we made sure that we are to make a return for that gift. And sometimes fruitfulness is outside of our hands. It's not up to us how successful we are. So we should take to heart what Mother Teresa used to say a lot. God calls us to be faithful and not successful. He calls us to be faithful and not successful. So he wants us to try to make the good use of the gifts that we have been given. My hero in this story is the man who has 2 talents, because he is not jealous of his co-worker who received 5. He doesn't complain. He doesn't reject the Lord like the man with 1. He does what he can. And I think that most of us, or all of us here, are like that man with 2 talents, because we're not the 5-talent kind of persons, if you think about it, right? Especially not in the spiritual order. We have like the Mother Teresas and the Padre Pios and people like that, 5 talents. The rest of us, probably about 2 talents. But that's okay, because we make use of the gifts that we have where we are. In the first reading, we heard about a valiant woman. And what kind of valiant things does she do? She takes care of her family. She loves her husband. That's the kind of task that we have been given. Very ordinary, simple things in which we are to become saints in the midst of the world. And that's how we are to respond to him. So that when it comes time for us to make an accounting, we won't blame the master like the man with 1 talent did. What we will do is come before him with confidence and say to the Lord, Lord, you gave me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more. And then he will say to us, come receive your master's joy. And that will be such a relief to us. I have made 2 more. Come receive your master's joy.